What is going on, everybody? Happy Mentor Monday. We are back for an all-new Mentor Monday Live, where we talk about some of the less technical, more philosophical aspects of being an independent artist, a creative, a home studio music producer. And of course, last week we introduced the concept of we can call in. You guys can all call into the show and ask your questions. Remember, let's keep the questions non-technical. Let's keep them, about the creative process, something more less tangible than what MIDI keyboard should I buy or how do I use this reverb, etc., etc. Let's keep it super high level so everybody in the chat can take value from it. I'm super stoked to be here for a second week. Hopefully you all can help me out with the levels. Let me know how everything is sounding. I'm hoping that the calls will come in at a good volume. What I like to do first is have a little bit of a rant, have a little bit of a traditional Mentor Monday where I kind of talk about a subject that's been on my mind. And then we dive into the calls, and the way it works is in chat, I will go ahead and post a Zoom meeting room ID that you can open up Zoom. So if you don't have Zoom right now during this first part of the show, you're downloading it, you're going to Zoom, it's free. And then once I post the room code, you can join in. You'll be put into a waiting room, and I will try to take as many calls as I can. First come, first serve. And that's about it. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward, and hopefully people in the chat can help me out with reposting the room code as soon as I post it. But I think we're going to have a good show today. Start thinking about your questions, creative process, home studio stuff, all that. If you don't know, I'm actually posting more in the podcast feed. So last week, some of the Q&A made it to the podcast, like the audio version. So I think the podcast feed is going to be a lot more active now because we'll have Q&A for Mentor Mondays. We'll have some of the TAETRO Talks interviews up there, all kinds of stuff from that. But first, before we dive into today's subject, I want to say hey to everybody who is in chat today. So what is going on? Manuel was first, as usual. Nasim is here. Grand Singh is here. Norbug, what's up? Camilo Martinez, Nova Beats, Basha, what is going on? I'm glad you're here. I don't think you were here for the last one, so welcome. Nova Beats is here. I think I said that already. Capel Tapple. Wow, you made it this time, Capel. Nice. Bueno. Welcome, APTV, Ollie, Cook, welcome, Danio, you're here, great to see you, KGP, of course, welcome. Who am I missing? Drillbit, welcome. Drillbit loves dubstep, that's what I know. Lost Music is here, and I think I got it covered. A Soda Music Production, what's up? Dance for Maja, hello, what is up? Why don't you all let me know where you're listening from? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. For me, it's about midday, 3 p.m. here on the East Coast. Cyborg, what is up? And I'll also take written questions too. So if you don't want to call in, but you want to type your questions, you can do that. But should we start to get into today's Mentor Monday? What's up, Felipe Chagas? What's up, Osiris? More and more people joining the chat. Awesome. You guys must be telling your friends about this stream. It's not a secret. You can do that, I guess one thing I wanted to talk about today, because I get lots of messages and lots of DMs and messages that I don't answer for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is you can super easily Google the question. The other reason is it's the question the person is asking, they don't really fully understand it. They're not like asking quite a question that shows me that they actually understand what they're asking. And then 3 is like the question is super broad. The question is like so big, and they say, oh, let me just ask you a simple question. And then it's this long message with the question. But most of the questions I'm getting lately are around building an audience, making connections, advice for young producers to get their name out there and to get their music heard and all that. And if you listened to my interview, or actually my session with John Selway last week, we took a minute from the creative sound design stuff and we talked a little bit about music business and labels and how to get your name out there. And one of John Selway and Abe Duque's biggest piece of advice for independent artists was all around connection. And they were talking about, because they came up at a different time. They came up in the 80s and 90s where physical interaction was much more important. They didn't have the social media, didn't have the internet to work with in the same way. But going and meeting people and making those personal connections was super important to them in their career, because you make connections, you meet people who, one thing leads to another, it becomes opportunity, or you just meet somebody who likes what you do, likes your music, and appreciates it for what it is, and becomes a fan, or it's less about being a fan. Like, I don't even consider people in this chat quote unquote fans. I consider it like a community. And building that up over time, what John and Abe said was that was one of the most important things for them in their career. And now that we're in 2020, we have this virtual world, and not only beyond that, like beyond just the generation that we're in with the internet and the advent of being able to use social media for this stuff, let's also talk about the COVID-19, the virus. Like, so not only do we also, yes, we have virtual. Previous to like a month ago, we could also go and meet people in the real world, but now we're all stuck virtually. So that has definitely changed the dynamic as well. But for me, so what you've seen lately is a lot more live streams, a lot more connecting on social. Because for me, this was already my bread and butter. And that's what I want to talk to you all about, building your audience through this way, through the virtual world. Because I think a lot of at-home music producers and younger independent artists, not necessarily younger, I mean like earlier in your career artists, right? No matter what age you are. People like to spam my DMs with music. They love to send links, unsolicited links. They like to just say, hey, check this out, or leave comments to say, hey, come check out my page. You'll love my beats. And what that really is a lot of wasted time and effort, because there's so many people doing that nobody takes that tactic serious anymore. I mean, maybe right at the beginning of the internet age that worked. I remember in the MySpace days, it almost worked. Like, you could comment, or you could send out a bulletin, or whatever they were at the time. You could add people as a friend, and people would find your music page and listen to it. But now we're in a time where there's just this oversaturation. And how do you overcome that oversaturation in getting your music out? Well, one thing you can do is build up a community. And one way to build up a community is to provide some type of value to that community. You think of some of the YouTube channels that you watch the most, you're going to notice that a lot of them are individuals. It's not like the TV era where you tuned into MTV and watched whatever show was on, or you tuned in to, what's another example, Nickelodeon, and watched whatever show was on. On YouTube, the channels are all... The most popular channels are all individuals. Think about somebody like PewDiePie or Casey Neistat. And why is that? Because people are attracted to individuals. They're captivated by the lifestyle, but also because they've cultivated community around themselves and around whatever subject matter they talk about. The way you can do this as a music producer and as an artist is by doing both things: creating music, doing your normal thing in your home studio, but also documenting the process and even sharing some of what you're learning. You don't have to be an expert to do this. You can be an amateur in the process of learning, and just documenting that process will provide some value to people and will also show your true personality. And what's far more likely, rather than posting a comment saying, hey, go check out my music, if you instead posted a 1-minute video or a picture with a bomb caption about a technique you just learned, like, hey, I just learned this new, something people ask me about all the time. Hey, I just learned sidechain compression. Here's what it does. Here's what it sounds like on my track. You're filming with your phone. You're filming the screen. And not only did you just talk about yourself and your own journey, but you also just taught somebody what sidechain compression was. There's no concept that's so basic that everybody knows it. You know, there's always somebody just learning, just starting out, that wants to come and learn things at a basic level. And so much of the content out there doesn't start at square one. It starts at square 2, square 3, square 4. And that's frustrating for beginners. So if you can be that person, even if you are a beginner, to share your process, as long as you're one step ahead of somebody else, it can provide value. And you know what happens now? You've provided value to that person, and they want to, not that they want to give something back necessarily, but they remember you. They remember you as the person who taught them this thing. And that will have you in much higher regard than if you were remembered as the person who spammed a DM or spammed a comment, you know? That's what I kind of mean. I'm going to dip back into chat real quick before I continue with this rant, but hopefully you all, what do you all think of this subject of getting yourself out there through building community, that sort of thing? I'll love to take some questions on Zoom, but I just want to dip in and see what everybody's doing in chat. I see lots of questions in chat, and maybe it is time to post the Zoom link. So what I'm going to do right now is copy my ID and start the meeting, I think. Yep. Cool. And chat, the meeting code is going in right now. Don't worry about calling in with video or anything. It's not going to be on screen. It's going to be just audio. So I'm going to be audio too. And make sure that you mute the stream before you join on the call, before I call it out, because it will feedback and it will not sound great. Zoom link or meeting code is in the chat, so go ahead and grab that. Maybe we can jump off this subject and we can kind of riff on it a bit if you have questions related to it. So we'd love to hear questions related to it, also any similar questions, that kind of thing. Go ahead and join whenever y'all are ready. I see lots of you all calling in and asking questions, but I mean writing in and asking questions, but feel free to also call in. You have the link, and once it's a conversation and a back and forth, it gets to be a lot more value, I suppose. All right, so while the room is filling up, while y'all are calling in, and let me know if there's any issues with the room code, I guess I will read some of these chat questions, or I guess, like, I'll give you guys a couple quick examples from my DMs, right? How can somebody get my attention? Even so, like, ask yourself, like, whose attention are you trying to get? Are you trying to get my attention as another electronic music producer? Am I your target audience? Or are there other people that should be your target audience? Like, if I'm doing my thing and I'm making music and I've got my channel and I've got my community, what's the idea? Why target me? Why target people with these giant followings? And how can you target people that are consumers of your content rather than people who might be less likely to be consumers of your content and more likely to be creators themselves? So I see, let me see. Put attendees in the waiting room. Yep. Call in via Zoom, my friends. I would love to take some calls today. I'm dipping into chat to answer some of these questions. Grand Sing Music. How do I know strategically I'm doing the right thing? I'm a small YouTube musician. How do you find someone to mentor and guide you through the process? Well, you're in this stream today, Grand Sing, and it seems like you found somebody, so this might not be direct mentorship, but it's close enough. I mean, I'm taking your question right now. So a lot of the ways you should be learning, and this is a two-part question. How do you measure that you're doing the right thing? Oh, we have somebody joining. So I'm just going to answer this question one real quick, and then we'll take the first call from Balvin. Two-part question, right? How do you know you're doing well? Oh, they left. He was too scared, or they were too scared. And then, how do you find somebody to mentor you? Watch what people do. You don't have to ask somebody a question to reverse engineer the thing that they're doing. For instance, if you like my YouTube channel and you would like to model, maybe you don't want to rip the content off, right? But you want to model, you see that I'm gaining some success or some traction. Okay, how is he doing that? You don't have to ask me that. All you have to do is go to my channel and look at all the content that I'm putting out. Take a bird's eye view of your favorite creator or your favorite producer's content and look at exactly what they're doing across all social media. That's the other great thing about social media. You can see what everybody is doing, what everybody's putting out across different platforms. You can see the videos they're putting out. You can see their tour. You can see the photos they're putting out. And just seeing that and taking that all in and deciphering it, like really diving into the information behind that. Okay, he posts one video a week. He answers the comments, and it's on these subjects, and that seems to work well. Like, that's all you need. That's one way you can have mentorship without actually being in touch with somebody. You can sort of model what you do after what they do. How do you know you're doing the right thing? You see some results. And this is not about, oh, I need to get a video with 1,000 views. I need to get a video with 1,000,000 views. Don't set yourself up for disaster based on somebody else's definition of success. Measure it to your own success. So if yesterday you got 5 views on a video, your goal for next week should be above 5. Can I get above 5 views on a video next week? And let's say you get 10. And as it continues to double, you're making so much more progress. You're learning from what you're doing. You're building on that audience. And 5 people is still a valuable number. If you have 5 people who really love what you do and will buy your album, will listen to your track, or will tune into your live stream every time, you're already making an impact. So if the value and the goal is to make an impact with your art and with your music, it's very achievable. As long as you do not have self-defeating prophecies about, like, oh, I need to have this kind of success to really be quote-unquote successful, right? Guys, I had one person in the meeting room in the call, and now they dipped out. So what's going on? I'm going to post the meeting room call again, and I'm going to say call in with questions, because I would love to take some calls. Last week we had about 5. It was really cool. It'd be great to answer some of these questions on the air. Scrolling up and finding some questions. Jesse Light says, which one is TAETRO? The white head on the left or the one with the glasses on the right? You'll never know. Whoa, we got a call. Here we go. Let's take it. And guys, you can still call in. You'll get in the waiting room, and I will take your call. Camilo, about to take your call. And get ready. Mute the stream. Here we go. What's going on, Camilo? How are you?
Hey, what's up? Happy to be here.
Good to hear from you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Started a new class today. We're doing medical school on Zoom like this.
Oh, wow. How's that working out?
So this one's fine. Last week I finished neurology. This one is just geriatrics.
Whoa.
And so it's the last class.
That's a lot. Oh, it's the last class, so you're getting ready to be done.
Yeah. That's why. So next month I'm going, or in a few weeks I'm going to New York, like we talked about.
Right.
My question was, seeing as though, you know, a lot of us, or I'll just speak for myself, are kind of small. A lot of the people that could be fans, potential fans, are kind of friends of ours, right? Facebook friends, people that we interact with on a regular basis. So my question is how to reach out to those people and not sound, you know, annoying or spammy, and try to see if they can interact with your music.
Yeah, it's actually like a reverse engineering kind of thing, because it's a little bit like going to the bar on a date, right? You go on a blind date, and like if you make a move too quick, you're going to put somebody off and they're not going to want to spend much more time with you. If you jump right to the, hey, want to come back to my hotel with me, or want to come back to my apartment, like it's a no-brainer. They're going to walk away. If you have a great night, if you like this person, you get to know a little bit about them, they get to know a little bit about you, and it's a conversation and it feels mutual. You start to build up that relationship, and it becomes something more real and less like predatory almost. And it's so hard to walk that line and not become like, you know, like Renee put in the chat, thirsty or desperate, right? So how do we get around that? The easiest way to get around that is to not actually go in for the ask. Like, don't go in for the ask. What can you do with your content? Can you build content that people come to instead of you going to somebody else? Can you build content that people go to? And that has been my theory and my strategy all the way along. So I take videos. I make videos obviously on YouTube, but I make videos on Instagram. I take cool pictures on Instagram as well. Things to attract people to me, and it's about like using hashtags and creating content that can be searched for, so that people can find it and that people can discover you, and suddenly they're diving in to seeing what you're like and what you're about. Less of you telling them like, oh, check this out. Unless, of course, and there's like two ways to do that. Like, I take pictures of all my stuff, videos of just what I do. Some people make pages where they literally just like curate content, like other cool home studios, because people who are interested in home studios or whatever subject are also interested in electronic music and music production. So if you curate a bunch of that content and you're the curator, people have a reason to talk to you. You know what I mean? You got to give people a reason to talk to you, or else you're just another like. I think just cold DMing somebody and asking them to listen to your music is the 21st century equivalent of the dude on the street in New York just passing out CDs saying, hey, check this out, check this out. Like, it's almost like a bother, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what about those people that you may not even, let's say you're just acquaintances from college or high school or whatever. What would you suggest at that point? Because then it sounds, why else would you be reaching out if you've never talked to them in 10 years or 5 years? What do you think about that?
For sure, but if you're gonna, instead of reaching out to them, like I know a lot of my people I went to college or high school with are all on Facebook, right? So couldn't I just make a really dope Facebook post that hopefully they would see, that they would be likely to see, and then maybe they would message me, or maybe they would interact with it, or maybe they liked it, and then I'm gonna message them and be like, hey, thanks so much for the like. I've been working really hard on this music stuff, and I'm not even gonna post a link in that message. I'm just gonna say, hey, thank you so much for the support. You gotta yeah, because then what do? Then they dive a little bit deeper because you didn't ask. Meanwhile, if you did ask, it automatically puts people into like a defensive, like I don't know if I want to, like almost like they're doing you a favor. But if you just throw gratitude at them and say thank you, like if you take that initial post, not target them, but put it in a place where these people that you want to get the attention of can see it, format it in a way that will actually get their attention. The people that do support it, just shooting them a message and saying thank you, that goes so much of the extra mile, and that rises so much above the noise, because everybody else is sending the link and going for the ask. Everybody else is sitting at the dinner table on the blind date one, and saying, will you go back to the hotel with me? You know, and
Yeah.
people are immune to that now in the internet age.
That was really good. I think you mentioned reverse psychology in the beginning. I think that's really key. Something that I'm going to take away from this.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not even necessarily reverse psychology. Like, I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm literally just trying to like take a landscape of everything that's happening. You know, we're so inundated with spam and emails these days, and like anything that sounds remotely human and respectful and not ASCII stands so much farther above everything else. So like doing that and just being super grateful that they did like the post and just letting them know that is an easy way that before they weren't going to click on anything, but now that you've thanked them, maybe they will. And it's still a maybe, but it's one step closer.
Great. Thank you.
Camilo, thank you so much for calling in.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too. Oh, we have a few more callers, chat, but I hope everybody's doing well. Oh, I see Boom Bap Art. Welcome, Boom Bap Art. Guys, go subscribe to Boom Bap's channel. Really dope channel. I am digging it. Obviously, you can probably guess what kind of music and stuff he makes, but cool stuff. Different from my stuff, so definitely sub. Shawnee, you exist. I see you. You do exist. It's amazing. 3:30 in Italy is back. Amazing. Yeah. All right, very cool. All right, I'm going to dip into another call. I'm going to dip into Galaxy S10. I'm going to assume that's not your name, Galaxy S10, but let's figure out who you are, and hopefully you've muted the stream because I'm about to admit you to the call. So here we go. Let's see. Looks like you might be muted. And as we figure out this situation, so Galaxy S10, I'm going to give you a couple minutes while I do the spiel to the chat, but hopefully you can figure out how to unmute yourself or turn your mic on. It doesn't even look like you have a mic. But chat, if you didn't know, you can call
Yeah.
in. Oh, you're here. All right, give me 1 second to do
Yeah,
the. I'm gonna do the shout out to the chat. But chat, if you don't know, I am posting a room code in the chat that you can call into via Zoom. You will be put into a waiting room, and then I'm taking live calls so that you can call in and ask questions around the creative process. You know, less technical, more philosophical aspects of being an independent artist, home studio musician, etc. So room code, I just put it in there. If you want to call in, feel free. But let's get into the next call. How are you? What's your name?
yeah. My name is Conrad.
Hi, Conrad.
Yeah, I'm calling from East Germany right now.
Wow, nice. So it's getting late there, like 9:30 or something.
Yeah, 9:30. Yeah, it's like 6 hours in the future from you.
Amazing. You're a time traveler.
Yeah, right. Actually, I have one question. That's like, so yesterday I took part in a virtual feedback session from 343 Labs.
Oh, nice. How was it?
Yeah, it was actually, it's pretty cool. So I got a lot of feedback from the instructor.
Great.
And it was really cool to be part of this. And afterwards, I was thinking about it and what he said to me about the track I was sending in. And yeah, I think it's a thin line between take to get the feedback and work on music and to incorporate the feedback in your music.
Right.
And on the other side, to not lose your own style.
Absolutely.
Your own kind of work in this music production. So that was actually pretty interesting for me to notice that because the feedback was good, but afterwards I was thinking, oh, it's not the way I want to go.
Right.
So
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I'm creative director of 343 Labs, which is an electronic music school. They do classes online, but on Sundays they do free feedback sessions. So anybody can join and get feedback from an instructor, like really super amazing instructors, super capable and they have a lot of experience in the industry. But I get what you're saying, Conrad, about how do you draw that line between feedback I'm going to accept and then my own identity. And there's like kind of two veins that I think of that come to mind. One is like technical. So there's lots of technical feedback, and I get lots of technical feedback, and I'm constantly searching to improve my techniques and just the technical aspects of what I do. And that stuff I really, especially if the person is like far more experienced and more capable than me, I take that and run with it because I know I can improve that way. Then there's other things like ideas about the arrangement of your track, ideas about, oh, this melody should be like this or the style should be like this. And they're more like stylistic, subjective types of feedback. And it's really hard to draw that line because on the one hand, usually if we're getting feedback, hopefully we're getting it from somebody whose thoughts we value and that have some, place to be giving us feedback, some experience. And on the other hand, we want to maintain our own artistic identity. And it really is a give and take. So I think a lot about this episode of Seinfeld I don't know if anybody is a fan, but it's this episode of Seinfeld where George does the opposite of everything that his instincts tell him to do. And he actually ends up being really successful because he realized that his instincts were leading him to all these failures and leading him to all this like trouble. And I've actually applied this in my life, right? Like when I wasn't finding much success, when I wasn't feeling like I was doing things right or meeting the right, threshold of what I wanted to do, I knew something had to change. And how did I combat that change? Well, I just started doing the opposite. I started listening to the things that I didn't listen to before. So for you, like that's a personal thing. For you, it's an assessment, right? Are you happy with your work? Because you are seeking feedback. You want to get some feedback. It's up to you what you do with it, of course. But if you say release the track or something and it doesn't quite have the response that you want, or you're not getting the traction that you need, maybe it's time to be more like George and say, hey, I was going to fight this feedback, but let's just do an experiment. And maybe you even just do this with one track. Take one track and just implement every piece of feedback, because maybe the feedback doesn't seem like who you are right now. Like maybe it seems like it's taking your music in a different direction that diverts from your current artistic identity. But our artistic identities are not stagnant. They're super fluid. Like mine changes all the time. And if you embrace this like metamorphosis, this like constant change, with having a few values that anchor you, I'm not saying abandon everything and go with what everybody tells you, but embrace that your artistic identity changes over time and it meanders and it goes back and it goes forth. And that just take a true, honest assessment. Try to be a third party perspective of yourself, if that's even possible, and say like, let me just try this feedback. Let me just try to implement some of this. It doesn't even have to be all of it, just a little bit of it, and just see if you get results that actually lead to you being more happy as an artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfectly sense. I think it's really difficult to get the right direction, and I think to do something else to accomplish new goals for yourself is the one thing, and the other thing is not to be a totally different person from who you are, and to maintain some parts of your own personality,
Ab-
your own music personality. So
Absolutely,
um,
and it's collage too. So, like just like we talked about last week with drawing influence from lots of different places and putting them into one new thing, you can do that with feedback too. Like as much feedback as you get, if you get lots of feedback, like if you ask multiple people from feedback, what you can do is filter that, because if a lot of diverse people are saying the same few things, like if there are a few things that pop up every time you get feedback, you probably know that that's something you should work on. If there are things that only one person says, you know that maybe that's just their taste and you should go with what you think on that matter, you know?
yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Conrad, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, chat. So a lot of that, like how do you take the feedback? How do you maintain your artistic integrity? Like it is a line to walk for sure, but just kind of take clear assessments of who you are, what you do, what traction are you getting, and what value can you actually take from the feedback. It's a challenge. Got a couple more calls to take. I've got Lennon. Lennon is about to be on the line. And don't forget, you can call in live and ask your creative questions about the creative process, about being a home studio music producer, less technical, more philosophical style questions. So, Lennon, you are about to be on. It always takes a moment. And Lennon, I do believe you have to turn your mic on. Same deal with, I think for some folks it defaults the mic off. So just double check that before you call. I've got Ollie Cook in the waiting room. So Ollie, hold tight because I'll be taking your call next. And if you haven't yet, I just put the Zoom code in the chat. So you can go ahead and enter that into Zoom, enter into the meeting. And then you'll be put in the waiting room and I'll call on you as things go by. We've got even more. Cool, more people popping up. All right, Lennon, while you figure out the microphone situation, I might go ahead and put you back in the waiting. Oh, it looks like you figured it out. Lennon, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for taking me. Appreciate it.
It's a little bit glitchy, but I think we'll make it through. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from New York.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My main question is, I'm a relatively young producer now. I'm 16 years old and I love music. I have a passion for it. I absolutely love it. But I kind of, over the course of my work as a producer and as a person in general, my tastes have changed. Um, I used to do lo-fi music, but now I kind of want to get into house music and lo-fi house music.
Totally.
But but I started my YouTube channel 330 in Italy, that vision, that project that I had, that was started off of lo-fi. So the majority of the people I already have listening to my music are here for the lo-fi, not for the house music. So I'm just kind of at this fork in the road where I have no idea where and how to transition from lo-fi to house music while keeping that audience together. That's kind of like, because lo-fi and house music are two totally different genres. You know, they're study beats and club music. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So
How old did you say you were?
I'm 16.
Dude, so you're 16. Get ready for this to happen like 10 more times over your lifetime,
Yeah.
Like, this is something that I've dealt with. I'm sure tons of people have dealt with. The one thing you want to do is not box yourself in, and you want to do what makes you happy, right? So what you did with 330 in Italy, like, did you see some success with that, with some like the lo-fi beats and study beats and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I did a little bit. It was definitely more than I expected.
I bet you learned a lot too.
Of course, yeah, 100%.
So, like, you're not locked into just being 330 in Italy. Just like when I was 16, I was writing songs and playing songs on the acoustic guitar and making music under a totally different name. And if I had always just held on to that old name and said, like, oh, now I want to do electronic music, and I had already built up a decent audience. Like, I was doing singer-songwriter gigs. I was playing in like malls and like in like small local festivals, like that kind of thing.
Cool.
But I didn't lock myself into that. Eventually, it came to a crossroads where I was like, okay, now I want to do electronic music. Something's got to give. I couldn't continue under that same name, I couldn't, because it meant something totally different. And that's where I came up with the TAETRO brand. And I took everything that I learned from the MySpace days and from the old singer-songwriter persona, and I applied it to what I knew about starting TAETRO, and I started a new thing under a new genre. And it's scary because it is starting from scratch, but you're not really ever starting from scratch if you already had a project and you learned something. So because you are so young, you have so much time to experiment and do different things. Like, dude, you should have like 3 different brands and 3 different pages where you're like, okay, this one's house, this one's a lo-fi, and we're gonna start a dubstep page too, like, or whatever it is. Don't lock yourself in, because the more things you try and the more like nets you cast out, the more you're gonna be able to reel in, and the more you're gonna figure out what you actually like.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's almost like this one artist. I don't know if you've heard of him. Have you ever heard of Oliver Heldens?
I have not.
Well, he's a Dutch producer, and he has his Oliver Heldens brand, where he does, club music and lo-fi, not lo-fi, club music and like house music. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But then he has this other thing called high-low, where he, like experiments with darker techno kind of like underground stuff. So I think that's kind of how, I don't know, maybe I'm taking this the wrong way, I'm not sure, but it's kind of like, you kind of just expand your brand as well as your tastes and genres. Is that what you're kind of saying? I'm not too sure.
Not like expand your brand. You need to start new brands. Like, for each different niche and each different thing you want to do. Like, you have 330 in Italy, it's fine. Continue to do that. But now you're going to start 9 p.m. in Berlin or something for your house music project, right? Because it's 2 totally different things, and it's going to be for 2 different audiences. And why limit yourself under one, like putting it all under one house? Man, I agonize over this all the time, because I'm like, I want to do something a little bit different, but I have this baby that is the TAETRO channel, and like, do I want to start from scratch? But it's not starting from scratch, really. It's like, and I assume the reason that artist, I forgot the name, Oliver Oliver Heldens. I assume the reason you've heard of his second project is because he built up such an awareness around his own brand that he then had the leverage to point you in the direction of a second brand or a second project that he had. So what you want to do is figure out which one of these is going to work, because likely if you're like me, you have so many different creative areas you want to go in. Apply some focus to some, see what's giving you the most traction and what's making you the most happy. And then when you get to a level that you've built an audience off of one of them, then you use that platform to send them back and say, oh, I want to get back into this lo-fi thing. Go check out this other project I started a while ago, 3:30 in Italy. You know, and then point them back to it, because you didn't just figure out that that guy had two projects out of thin air. He built up his own personal brand, his own his mainline brand, his mainline music making project, and then he diverted his audience to a different sounding thing that led you to like both things. But until you have that audience built up on that one platform, that one thing that you want to go kind of all in on for a bit, you can't really split it until you have that audience to split, you know?
Right. I mean, you can't really split an atom with like a knife. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You need like a bunch of. I think you need to have an established brand first, and then you kind of like expand of that, and then that's when you kind of start reaching out to the niche audiences and the more selective audiences. Is that?
Yeah, for sure. And for you, like right now, experiment with as much as possible. Like, don't wait to start the house music project. Like, just start it, see how it makes you feel, see how you like it, see how other people like it, continue to chip away at it. Cool. Okay. Like, if in that process you're like, oh, I want to start this other project now, like, do that too. And like, because you're in the tasting like phase. Like, you're in a phase where you can really start tasting everything and trying things and figuring out like what you really like. And then what you might come up with is something that's a combination of all of these things, which is what we talked about last week, which is something new and original and really cool that people want to listen to.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is get stuck with 3:30 in Italy, and then you're not that passionate about lo-fi anymore in a year, but you've built up such an audience, so you feel an obligation to stick with it.
Right. And I also feel like especially on YouTube, I don't feel like it's that, I don't feel like this is the same for SoundCloud, and I feel like with YouTube, like quantity sometimes, not in all cases, but sometimes I feel overtakes quality. You know what I mean? Like if you post like 7 tracks a month, right?
Right.
You're gonna be listed somewhere. The algorithm has to put you somewhere. I can't just leave you there. You know what I mean? So keeping that audience and maintaining and retention rate for the audience, per brand and per idea, that's also gonna be very difficult as well, I feel.
Yeah, but you got to think about each thing you post is another at bat, is another chance to get in front of the audience that wants to listen to you. So that's the quantity game. If you can get your quantity and your quality, if you can get your quality up so that you automate your process so that you can keep up quantity, great. But always draw that line. Don't make yourself not release because your bar for quality is too high, but also don't release a ton of crap if the quality's not high enough, you know?
You kind of have to find that meet in the middle thing. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Totally. Thank you so much for calling in.
Of course.
Have a good one.
Safe.
You too.
You too.
Andreas, I see you there in the call. I'm going to answer you in a moment. Ollie, we lost you. Are you still there, Ollie? Because you can call back in and I can get you in. Don't worry. Sorry, it does take a while. Some of these calls go a little bit longer, but hopefully you guys are enjoying. Let me know if you guys are liking this call-in style show. If you don't know and you're just tuning in, you can call in to the Zoom. I'm going to post the room code in the chat right now. Go ahead and call in, and you'll be put in a waiting room. I'll take your question when I can, in the order that they come. Some philosophical, home studio, artistic questions, that sort of thing. But for now, Andreas, I'm going to admit to the room. Come on in. Andreas, can you hear me? To the Zoom.
Oh.
Hey, how are you? Make sure you mute the actual stream.
Very nice welcome all.
Hello, how are you? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, so I am from Austria.
Oh, Austria. Amazing. Can you do me a favor? Can you just lower the volume of the actual stream? Because it's
Um,
feeding back into my headphones.
okay, waiting. I have
Just
my
mute the YouTube video.
in.
Because it's on a little bit of a delay. There we go.
Okay, okay, okay.
Perfect. I think. Oh, I can still hear the stream a little bit.
Where are you calling in from? Yeah, so I am from Austria.
Oh, Austria. Amazing. Can you do me a favor? Can you just lower the volume of the actual... If you just go onto YouTube and you mute the video, we should be good.
Okay, 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 okay.
Just mute the YouTube video.
Okay, sorry. I have two PCs. It's a little bit.
Okay. No worries.
Okay, it's muting.
There we go.
Okay, for example, I make electronic music since 2010. I have before playing into different bands, and I have out now see over coronavirus going many on. Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, the authenticity. First of all, your personality. That is very important. As a man, I make out now since 1 or 2 weeks live shows in Twitch TV over electronic music production. Then I have many peoples what me send uh, emails for into stand. Can you make it a track from scratch? Can you make it that and that and that? Man, that's a question what I'm really hating. And out now, I am into change modus too, as man, you see that. But I have a personality and will my skills and my electronic music bringing to the audience. That is that what I'm really needed and like it.
Can you repeat the question? What's the question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
So my one.
Wait, what's the question?
The question is, we can IM make more audience, or what I'm needed, or what for platform is the best one for this? Man, I stay out now by Twitch TV, okay?
Okay.
Man, I have into the last weeks more than 25 followers. The last videos 12. Also, the level goes up more and more.
Yeah.
And that is that. But the question is, we can IM make people sense or the me to like it. You know what I mean, man. You see me out now, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, man, I have with a lady talk in Austria over authenticity.
Authenticity, yeah.
Yes. And I'm looking really of that about the people coming not so into my chat, so into the stream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So only maybe 8 or 7, man. That is okay for the start. Is that okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man, you need on your audience to working. As a man, I cannot say, okay, I come on the stream and I have 1,000 followers. Yeah, okay, when I'm that have or that one, is that faster going on. You know what I mean? No?
Right.
But that is not the point.
The easiest way for you to build up this audience, and it's not about like which platform is like as many platforms as you can be on and be comfortable and make content for, you should be on. So don't limit yourself there. But also at the top you said, oh, I'm getting all these questions during my stream and I don't like them. I don't like the questions and I don't want to answer them and da da da. But what we talked...
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Nick, it's not that. Aber into chat coming not the questions or the answer what I needed. Also man, she is different to them what I make it. Man, I make music, yeah. And I cannot make question over different stories. Man, man, for example, for example, as a man, I make music, yeah, and this guy talking over games. Man,
Right.
it's a different thing. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm talking over Synthi and sidechain and that and that, and the people talking over different things, and
For
that
sure.
is that what I'm not all time can understand.
Right. So like Twitch mainly being a gaming platform versus other platforms where, but there's not a lot out there, right? There's not a ton of people making music out there on Twitch. There's some, but it's not the most of what Twitch is being used for is for video games. And that's why you don't see me on Twitch, even though Twitch is a live streaming platform. It's meant for live streaming. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
here on
good.
YouTube, people expect to watch videos. They don't necessarily expect to watch live streams. But this is where my audience is. This is where my channel is. This is where people are searching for questions about electronic music and music production and things like that. So I choose to do it here, even though it's not the live streaming quote unquote platform. That said, I still put pictures on Instagram. I still put things on Twitter. Like it's a culmination of all those things to point the people in the right direction. But regardless, as long as wherever you are and wherever you're streaming, you interact with your chat, you talk to the people, and you build up a community, because I bet there's people watching right now that wouldn't watch if I was on Twitch, but I bet there's people on Twitch that aren't watching now that could be watching, you know? So as long as you're your authentic self, whatever platform you're on, engage with the audience. And like you said, if your numbers are going up a little bit every time, great. But also don't be afraid to experiment. If you don't feel like you fit in on Twitch, or you don't feel like you're getting the traction you could be on Twitch, just try YouTube instead. Try Instagram Live. Who knows? For you, it might be Facebook Live. You just
So
try them all.
I have a great mentor. As a man, you can the videos are looking is Harris Heller. He have today a great story present. He told the audience he have for a long time same a self change into his mind, also into his personality. He's very depressed and that and that and that, and he told today into man, you can look Harris Heller by YouTube. It's very interesting. He said today, make your audience, make your one thing, and uh, boost your audience to you. Aber man, I stehe bei Patreon too. Maybe is for music production or kind like this the most better place. I don't know. Man, I will testing too. Also, man, I test in different genres. Also Patreon and YouTube and Twitch. Also that's my try opportunity. By Facebook is very different over copyright sometimes. Um, I have many discussion with Sony Music and all. I make all time dispute by this, and after come the so we out now, man. I can show you Sony Music have your dispute stand. So I have rights, no? Then I have a record label by Holland. I make my mixes by Holland, and when I'm only post a short video in Facebook, yeah, your video is not posting over copyright. And when I'm making after my dispute, it's all allowed. It's very interesting. So, man, I don't know.
Yeah, so it just sounds like you kind of jumped the gun and went ahead and did a label thing, and they're claiming copyright and all that stuff. And really, we don't need to get ahead of ourselves on the label thing. I gotta let you go, Andreas, because I don't have premium Zoom, and it's gonna end the call. But I'm gonna continue answering your question on the stream. Okay?
No, it's okay. But nice to meet you. It's
Nice to meet you
really,
too.
thanks you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
calling in.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, chat. I gotta reset the room. I can take a couple more calls if you guys want. Zoom is being so difficult, but what it comes down to is like, you got to build up your audience before you get ahead of yourself, or you're going to cause problems for yourself. Just like we just talked about with like, a label. But if you only have 12 or 10 or something, people, like, a label is not useful to you if you do not have an audience. If you think a label is going to build your audience for you, you better be on one of the big major labels, and you better be getting signed to like somebody huge. And if you are getting signed to somebody quote unquote huge, you better believe that it's legit, and you better not have paid them any money, because that's how people take advantage of folks. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. So like, look out for yourself and build up organically. That's what you should do. It's just like, there's no shortcuts. That's all I gotta say. There's literally no shortcuts that you can take to accelerate this process. And if you try to take the shortcuts, you're gonna get scammed, you're gonna lose hope, all that, you know? So for one last time, folks, I'm gonna go ahead and paste the Zoom code into the stream, I think. Yep, there we go. Going to go ahead and post the Zoom code in the stream, and if you have any last lingering questions, feel free to jump in and I will answer them as best I can. Thank you to everybody who's called in so far. I think we've been able to provide some value to folks, and I've had a really good time. If you don't know, this show airs every Monday at 3 p.m. EST, and you can call in. Usually I start on a topic, I do a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a traditional Mentor Monday, talk about a topic that, you know, would be interesting for the community, and then we start taking calls, and people call in, enter the Zoom, enter the waiting room, I let them in, and we chat with the community, all like that. I see text chat is super active, so I'm super stoked about that. Drill bit, yeah, that dubstep comment earlier was definitely for you, just so you know. Hi mom, my mom's here, that's cool. Capel, I'm waiting for Capel to call in. I don't know if Capel has called in yet, but he's in every stream, man, when he gets the time right, that is. FPV Activity says, what's your real name? Are you talking to me? My real name is Nick. My real name's actually TAETRO. It's both. It's true. So folks, it looks like we're coming to an end. We've been live for about an hour. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of Mentor Monday. If you don't know, you can support this channel on Patreon. So if you took some value today, or if you've taken some value from my content and you would like to give back in any way, you can head to patreon.com/TAETRO. You can join for as little as $1, and that gets you access to the Discord group, which is a bunch of like-minded home studio producers in one place. They talk about gear, help each other out with technical questions, that sort of thing. And yeah, and it's a really cool place to be. Oh, I guess we got to take this last call. Nick Lovin, I'm going to admit you to the call. Make sure you bring the stream volume down, and you'll be our final question of the day. Nick, what's up? Can you hear me? I think your mic is off or something. Oh, there we go.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Nick? We have the same name.
Hey, awesome. I didn't even know that. What a coincidence.
Yeah. How are you? Where are you calling in from?
Great. I'm calling from Massachusetts. I'm in the Concord area.
Nice. Same name, same state. What do you know about that?
Oh my God, we're like brothers.
Basically, I think that's how it works.
Hey, thanks for letting me call in. I literally did this on a last limb. I'm like watching this. I'm like, I gotta call.
You gotta.
I gotta call.
For sure.
So my question from one Nick to another, right? So I've been DJing around the Cambridge area with lo-fi beats and stuff, and I've been doing this little cipher area called the Bridgeside Cipher.
Nice.
And my question for you is, I mean, you can build an audience, right? Or you can be like a teacher. And I've been a camp counselor, you know, a couple summers back. It was great. You know, how do you start being a mentor? Like, where do you start with that?
It's interesting. I kind of did the exact same thing like you're talking about. So my first job, I studied music. First job out of college was working at a summer camp as a music I forget, music teacher, I guess, for the summer camp. They had an after school program. I was working with mostly younger kids. And then I did that for about a year. Eventually, I wanted to work with teens. Oh, I think I just lost you. I'm sorry, Nick, because my Zoom closed. But I'll still answer your question. I apologize. So, like I said, I did the thing where I was like a summer camp teacher, wanted to work with older kids and wanted to work more on like music production stuff. And the way I did that was by going to the world of boys and girls clubs, which is something you can look into. But these are like after school programs that you can run a music program, but you can basically make your own curriculum. And that's what I did. Oh, Nick Levin's here. Perfect. Yeah, Nick, sorry. I'm going to upgrade to premium Zoom now that we're doing this call-in show because it only lets me do it for an hour. Anyway, once I started working with older kids, I was working at this program where I basically for 4 years came up with my own curriculum, I had a recording studio, I had tons of instruments, I had kids in bands, I had kids recording original, like a lot of rappers, beat makers, all that. And it was like the time of my life for 4 years. And that was where, because that was all youth development first, and youth development is basically mentoring. So in running a program that I could kind of come up with my own curriculum and come up with what I wanted to teach and focus on the kids and their lives first and then use music by way of that, I basically became a mentor. And that around that time, around the halfway through doing that, is when I came to the decision like this channel and my work life are not so different. I'd be on here teaching, but how can I go deeper? How can we do things like this? And that's how I just started doing the electronic music mentor thing and doing Mentor Mondays. And it comes down to, you have to have a holistic approach. You have to look at the whole person, the whole musician, right? So everybody in this chat like is on their own journey. They're doing their own thing. They'll ask me technical questions, sure, but like zooming out and doing stuff like this where we answer more philosophical questions, that's how you become a mentor. You become a mentor by mentoring, by taking your experiences and passing them down to a generation. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be passing it down to a generation, because it doesn't have to be a younger person. I have one private lesson student who's like 70, and he's learning a lot in our private lessons, even though we're decades apart, and he's older than me and, way more experienced at doing whatever he does for a living, So become a mentor. Easiest way, start looking at youth development programs, especially if you love music and things like that. Even volunteering, right? We talked about building up a platform. I've built up my platform, so now when I mentor people, they know that I know what I'm talking about, right? So I think there's a lot of people who try to dive into mentoring but don't really have a platform, and it's like, okay, like you might be saying the right things, but like, are you doing them in practice? So it's super hard, and that's why I did my job for 4 years and absolutely loved it, and now I'm focusing on this side of things, and I no longer do that job because it was so hard to focus on both, but I had to build both up at the same time to be worth anything. So it's going to be super hard, but if you can take on mentoring some kids and some people and sharing your experiences and your successes while building up yourself so that this side can be more valuable, the mentorship side, like you can be such a better mentor if you have such great success to like pass on to people, Of course, we all have our ways of living that could be passed on to people, that could be good, but show some proof. Where's the proof in the pudding? If I'm going to talk to kids about the music industry, I better be involved in the music industry somehow. That's what gives us, like as a mentor, that's what gives me the freedom to, like school teachers, like you're stuck doing that full time. Like it's so hard to be a school teacher and build something up. It's like that terrible phrase, those who can't do, teach, right? Well, I would like to be the doer and the teacher. And if we had more of that, we would have, better education and young people who are more prepared for the world. So if you can figure that out, how to do and how to teach simultaneously, and know that those are both full-time jobs and that you have a very high potential of burning yourself out. But if you stay strong and you stick to it, you will you'll find it rewarding. You'll feel good. You'll be stronger for it in the end. That's the way. Find a way to do and find a way to teach. Both of them at the same time. Drillbit asks, am I TAETRO's Padawan. Yes, you are. Christopher Ulrich asks, hey TAETRO, can you recommend Nexus 3 as my first VST for presets? No, because I've never used Nexus 3, and no, because this is Mentor Monday, and that's not what this is for. All right, I hope you all enjoyed today's show. We're coming to an end of Mentor Monday. We're going to be live again next Monday at 3 p.m. EST. This video is going to go live at the end of, whenever it finishes processing at the end of the stream. Podcasts. Go on whatever podcast service you use, Apple Podcasts, Google, Anchor, whatever. Type in TAETRO Radio, and you're going to find a podcast feed that I'm going to be uploading a lot more to. Some of the Q&A is going to go on there. Some track review stuff is going to go on there, and some interviews are going to go on there. Today I just posted Q&A from last week, so if you missed it, that's a good way to check it out. But that's where to find it. If you want to support this channel, if you found value in this today, or if you've ever found value in the content and you want to join a community, you want to join our Discord chat, and you also want to get a bunch of other perks, go to patreon.com/TAETRO. You can join for as little as $1. You can submit music to the podcast that way, and you can join our Discord group. At least just go to the Patreon and see what the perks are. See if they can inspire you to sign up and become a supporter. But I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a great day. I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat, everybody who called. Danio, take care, man. Hope you have a good day. And connect with each other, you know? That's how we can build community and make the world a better place. Hope you all are staying safe out there. Thanks for tuning in to Mentor Monday. We'll go live again later this week to do TAETRO Radio Live, but I'll post that before it goes up on Twitter and in Discord, all that. Stay tuned for more live later this week. Stay tuned for a beat video tomorrow. But for now, thank you all for tuning in to Mentor Monday. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.